Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 Career Mode, episode number 54 today for the Singapore Grand Prix in Season 3, and Chris is nowhere in sight. There is no meme intro or anything like that. I know there's going to be comments. I know right now, I know you are typing a comment right now about there being no intro, but there's no point for an intro. Chris is not involved. There's nothing to talk about, unfortunately. We've spent our R&D points at the end of last episode. We've got two major upgrades coming, but the big thing that has changed for this episode is the new patch. The new patch has come to PC, at least. I'm not too sure about the consoles yet, but the PC patch is here. 1.9 is called on the PC, and so you can clearly see Force India have been given some steroids, and Williams have, well, they've been given whatever the opposite of steroid. Is there an injection that takes performance out of you? I'm not too sure, but Force India have been given steroids. You can see pretty much their entire graph has just been shifted up by some way, and now they are well and truly ahead of us. They're almost halfway between myself in Renault and Red Bull, which is annoying, to say the least, because it does mean you can see on that chart, pretty much when our two major upgrades come into play, we'll have re-overtaken Force India, and we'll be right slap bang between Force India and Red Bull, technically, on that graph. You can see in terms of the aero and everything like that, you can see where Williams got downgraded. Williams got downgraded in their aero department. Force India got upgraded somewhat in their chassis department because we were well ahead of them. You can see, though, those upgrades, those two major upgrades, are going to take us right back in to the mix, and pretty much by the look at the indicator will be, as I said, right between Force India and Red Bull on the chassis side of things. So a little bit annoying because that is going to push us further back. And of course, from last episode and the last few episodes, obviously, if you haven't been keeping up, be sure to go check the old ones out before you check out the new ones. We're trying to fight Sebastian Vettel and really the two Ferraris and the two Mercedes for the championship. At the moment, the only one near us is Sebastian with 12 points there. And so we're trying to fight him, but obviously one car, Force India, one entire team ahead of us, pushes us back by a potential 2 grid slots in qualifying and 2 grid slots at the end of the race. So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating there for the patch. I was hoping Renault could maybe make a step up, because in real life they have actually, stepped up a little bit from where they started in the beginning of the season, but obviously Force India and Williams were the kind of two biggest teams that it was a stark difference to real life to what the game was telling us. So obviously, got to be fair, in hindsight, it's fair enough. We're just going to have to deal with it. It's just another setback, but these things happen in a career of racing, and you just have to roll with the punches, as they say, and we'll continue on. So we move into qualifying 1 then, and obviously Singapore, it's a bit of a funny circuit really, because it is high downforce more or less, but then you do have that main back straight that we're going to come to at the end of sector 1, which you're going to lose a bit of time on if you run too high wings, but generally obviously it's a high downforce circuit, going to be a chassis circuit, so really our car should perform pretty okay. But as I just mentioned, Force India got a major chassis improvement, so instead of us maybe fighting comfortably, the Red Bull guys or the top 4 teams, we may have to also fight Force India, so we'll have to see how they go in this session really. But the engine power shouldn't matter too much for us today. I'm not running too high wings, I believe around the region of 8.8 I think it was in the end. So we come home in P8 then, and Nico in P10 at the end of Q1. You can see Ocon though splits us both, and Perez up the order as well, so the Force Indias are indeed going very well, and Williams nowhere to be seen there in that top 10. But into Q2 then, we are going to strap on a set of ultra soft tyres again, because if you look closely there at the weather indicator that I changed on the right hand side, you can see there's droplets of rain forecast for the start of this race. So that means basically our strategy of starting on the second softest tyre, there's no point doing that, because if it rains then we're going to start on the inters or full wets, and so we'll just throw away performance in Q2. So we may as well qualify on these tyres. I think this came up just briefly, obviously, at the British Grand Prix, I think it was. No, the Belgian Grand Prix, sorry. The Belgian Grand Prix is where that happened, of course, where we qualified on the fastest tyre in Q2. So that's what happened in Q2. We got into Q3 comfortably in P5 there. You can see, unfortunately, though, Nico did not. He's knocked out in P11, so just on the cusp of that. But then major disasters for us in Q3. Fault on the fuel system. So the second time, I believe, this has happened this season now. We've had a fuel system issue. The brakes were the issue back in Season 2 and Season 1. The fuel now is the cause. And you can see, unfortunately, as it ticks down to, we slow down the timer to the last 10 seconds to fix that fault, the team working as hard as they can. But unfortunately, it's going to leave only just over 1 minute left in the session as soon as this fault is over. And that will just not be enough time to go set out a lap time. You can see I even click drive out to just try my luck, and it says insufficient time, no point going out. And so we don't even set a time in Q3. So we don't even get a chance to maybe challenge Sergio Perez there for best of the rest in P7, and Sebastian Vettel is on pole position. Really, Q3, this has gone as badly as it could have gone, to be honest. The only worst part could have been if we started at the back of the grid at Singapore. But, you know, for Vettel to get pole like that, he's already got 12 points on us. This is definitely, you know, if I wanted this Drivers' Championship this season with Renault, I'm going to have to really, really fight for it. And I'm going to also have to continue to maybe get a bit of a miracle going. Obviously, we've got a lucky fair few times with the front runners going out. But I'm hoping that Bottas there and Hamilton can challenge Vettel. They qualified ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. But you can see clearly intermediate tyres strapped onto the end of that Red Bull car on the front end, and you can see it's raining, and still for some reason the Ferrari mechanics all have t-shirts on, which is always an odd decision. But you can see the new patches there, the new numbers and the new shark fin numbers and names, so that'll be awesome to have on the replay cameras during the race. But let's get into the full grid sequence then, and then we'll get into the start of this Grand Prix.
Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Räikkönen, Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo and Perez, Grosjean, Ocon, Renault and Nico Hülkenberg, Kvyat, Sainz, Lewis Hamilton and Massa, Alonso, Van Dorn, Lance Stroll and Pascal Wehrlein. Ericsson and Kevin Magnussen rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So if you're paying attention to that grid sequence then, unfortunately for us, even more bad luck in this Grand Prix so far, is Lewis Hamilton has been bumped down the order. He's got a penalty there, I'm assuming for engine components now. You know, we're getting towards the end of the season, of course, only 6 episodes left, so yeah, maybe now is the time when we'll see AI cars now start to take their engine penalty, so I'm hoping at some point Vettel has to take one that sends him to the back of the grid whilst we're at the top. But yeah, Hamilton down the order, so one less Mercedes to challenge him, but you can see starting on the intermediates, it will get drier towards the end of the race though, so that'll be interesting once again as we now go to 5 red lights for the Singapore Grand Prix, and it's underway in the very tricky conditions of the intermediates, just like in real life. But this time I don't think there'll be any chaos into turn 1. No, there is not. It's all rather calm, to be honest, as we go around the outside though of Esteban Ocon there as Perez sends it down the inside of Romain Grosjean. To the Force Indians looking to be on the attack already as Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen go side by side as we go a little bit wayward, as we got a little bit of missed traction on the curbing of turn 2. Down the inside though of the Frenchmen, or both Frenchmen actually, Grosjean and Esteban Ocon, and we're up into P7 then, as now Perez up ahead of us is chasing down the 2 Red Bull cars and looking very handy indeed. We're up into Rich Mix to try and help us in a straight line, but there goes Perez down the inside. They're 3 wide there, the 2 Red Bull cars. Ricciardo on the outside, he's being shoved off actually onto the curbing, so that means we can make an overtake up into P6, just about missed the wall as Checo really didn't give us too much room. I don't think he was aware we were there, but we find the traction and we're going to make a double pass, and this will be a full triple overtake basically in the span of 3 corners to get up into 4th place and ahead of Max Verstappen. Absolute brilliant work for us. A little bit lucky with the tangle that the 2 Red Bulls had, obviously, but we go wide, we've hit the wall, we've lost grip, and Verstappen has got back ahead of us, and we're down to P5, so that was very, very close. That could have been nasty. Thankfully, we have not lost any of our front wing there, and our tyre did not come off there. Just about slowed it down as we hit the wall. I was already in 2nd gear, slowing right down, but misjudged that a little bit. Probably got a little bit too excited, to be honest, after overtaking 3 cars there in such a short span of time, getting up into P4 from P10, that I just kind of missed my break point there. But that can happen in these very tricky conditions. And on lap 2 though, we are staying with Max Verstappen, so you know, we kind of composed ourselves after that mistake, and good to see already on lap 2, already a bit of a gap being built between myself and Sergio Perez there on the mini-map. Unfortunately though, an even bigger gap is there between Verstappen and the next guy ahead of him, who I believe is Kimi Räikkönen, the top 3 being Sebastian Vettel at the moment, leading the way from Valtteri Bottas to Räikkönen, as there's yellow flags. Kevin Magnussen is out of this Grand Prix. I believe he had a penalty anyway at the start of this race, so double misery for the Dane. As we move now through the laps then, looking at a replay camera shot, this is Sebastian Vettel, just to kind of give you a visual representation of how far this gap is. That is Bottas only now going down that same back straight at the start of it, and then Kimi close behind, so Kimi very close to Bottas, but Vettel is in a world of his own, in a class of his own here around Singapore, and that really doesn't bode well for me. And you can see there's Verstappen, here is us down the back straight, so you can see now, unfortunately, as we've gone through the laps, Verstappen is basically basically left us for dust. It was looking good on lap 2, but now I'm actually starting to really struggle because ever since the start of the Grand Prix, it's slowly and slowly been getting drier and drier. And you can see already the droplets aren't coming down as fast down my screen as they were at the beginning. It's still wet enough for Inters on lap 9, but the grip is just not the same, and I'm really struggling against the AI, and I'm just about keeping this ahead of Perez. But you can see the gap to Verstappen has grown and grown since lap 2, and it's just really unfortunate. But the AI are just very, very good in these conditions. You know, they're kind of they're you know, fair enough on the Inters and then the dries, but in this in-between period, they just find this extra level of really quite good that I just can't match, and they're just a bit too fast for me. So struggling to keep up with Verstappen there, having to kind of just basically be a bit of a mobile chicane almost to Perez for a few laps as we move on to lap 13. Eventually, though, Jeff did call for the tyre strategy change. It is dry enough now, he feels, for the slick tyres. You can see, though, I did agree to his strategy, which was ultra soft to super soft, but I changed that then. As I called in for the box this lap, I changed that to super soft. So instead of coming onto the ultras like he wanted us to, we're going to come on to the Red Wall super soft tyres, the middle tyre, because that should hopefully give us a bit of flexibility. Yes, I may end up just going onto the ultra softs, but let's say, you know, Singapore, you know, in real life, there's a 100% record of a safety car coming out of Singapore. So hopefully, let's count on the safety car coming out. And I sort of need to if Sebastian Vettel's waltzing away from us so fast. So that's why I want to go on super softs. Gives us that flexibility to maybe go into another set of supers, maybe under the safety car. Or if there's not a safety car, then just go to ultras like we planned. And that way, we're kind of in the best position we ever could be. But you can see we come out just ahead of Sergio Perez then, but a long gap ahead of us. Unfortunately, Verstappen really did start to pull the legs, maybe up into Rich Mix perhaps in that Red Bull of his, but I just really could not keep up with him. But he's onto a set of soft tyres, Perez as well, and I believe also Kimi Räikkönen and Valtteri Bottas are both on soft tyres. Sebastian Vettel, interestingly, is on ultra softs at the moment as we move into lap 16 onto lap 18. You can see constantly gaining time on the top right there, green lap times, and on the top left you can see the delta time is closing down from what was 8 seconds to eventually it will be around 5 seconds. We're closing down Max Verstappen, and obviously all down to us losing so much time in the first stint. Now we're just basically playing catch up in this second stint, trying to desperately catch Verstappen back again, let alone the top guys. Meanwhile, though, there is some action for this man, Lewis Hamilton, going round the outside of Esteban Ocon, then into turn 1. Very odd place to actually make a move around the outside to turn 1, but he makes it work into turn 2 then as well. And Hamilton, of course, with the engine penalty at the start of this race, coming back, but no, now as he catches on the next lap, he's got an engine failure, smoke pouring out the back of that Mercedes car, and Mercedes are really wrecking their own Constructors' Championship, and any chance for Hamilton and Bottas to start chasing down the Ferrari guys. I mean, Bottas technically still in there, but Hamilton really going down the ways. What a change that's made from the start of the season. Remember, Hamilton won the first 2 races of the season. Looks like he was dominating the first 2 races, and Mercedes indeed were ahead of Ferrari for a lot of this R&D way, but in the last, 5-6 rounds, Ferrari have really taken off in terms of the R&D, and they're well ahead of Mercedes, and now Mercedes are getting hit with reliability issues as well. So Mercedes really not coping well, and what looked like to be a pendulum swing for them this season is turning out to be not the case. And it looks like Ferrari, once again like in season 2, may be the ones with the faster car in the driving seat. For the constructors at least, of course, in the Drivers' Championship, I'm hoping to be a spanner in the works for Sebastian Vettel, and now we've got a bit of good luck that may just help that cause as this full safety car is out. We've only got 16 runners now left in this Singapore Grand Prix, and for whatever reason now the safety car has come out. Maybe it was due to Hamilton retiring there, maybe it may be some other cars. There's a few more laps have gone by actually since that incident, so it's probably another car, and we don't know really what really caused that accident. But you can see on lap 22, full course safety car has been called out, and we're going to come into the pit lane now, and we're going to make this bold call and go onto the ultra soft tyres now with 8 laps to go. Obviously that's a tricky call for us. I don't think we could have stretched super softs. You must say probably the guys on soft tyres may be looking to go to the end of this race, but crucially for us, Sebastian Vettel did pit, but I think he was so far ahead, I think he's still in first place, so really that won't matter actually. But for us to strap on ultra softs now as we come out towards the pit lane, we're going to go down the order a little bit, yes, but we are going to be on the ultra softs. They're the fastest tyre now versus 2 compounds down for most people, the soft tyres. We should be going like an absolute rocket ship, and that's what I'm hoping can maybe just give us some luck. Maybe Raikkonen and Bottas challenge Vettel after the safety car comes in. I'm not too sure, but that's what I'm hoping for. However, let's not speak too soon about good luck, because we move later into this lap. You can clearly see we've been given a falling far too back message. I even go as extreme as cutting 2 corners majorly to try and catch some time to Ocon. and we've still been given a drive-through penalty for falling far too back apparently, even though we're within 2 car lengths of Esteban Ocon there after cutting those corners, and even before that we were still well within this entire train. The safety car is only there, and we were that close to the safety car in Sector 3. But no, the FIA want to give us a drive-through penalty. So the irony here is the safety car came out, yes, that's good for us, but then at the same time that also caused us to get a drive-through penalty. So the racing gods can giveth and the racing gods can taketh away. Unfortunately now, as we move on to lap 26 on the restart, then we do jump up to P7 and some people are in the pit lane, which is even more annoying because that means we could have gained even more time. But all this entire time, all these overtakes that I potentially may be making won't matter because we have to make a drive-through penalty, and I was seriously pissed off. This was worse than Brazil in Season 1. If you remember, if you've been watching since Season 1, this career mode, in Season 1 of Brazil, at Brazil in the Toro Rosso, I had this same exact thing, and I lost a podium there, and I was already in the podium position, but this means more, because this is for the championship, to help me out, close that gap to Vettel, at least damage control the gap that Vettel will be extending in this race. So I was even more pissed off now than I was back in Season 1, and I had the grit between my teeth. You can see there, no-nonsense stuff with Romain Grosjean, very aggressive with him on the back straight there, weaving to the left and then back to the racing line to make that pass done. And as we close up to Sergio Perez, just trying to gain as much time as we can. Of course, you know, any time I can gain right now is going to help us when we fall back now by just driving through the pit lane very, very slow. And so much so, you can see sending down the inside from Perez from such a long way back. That's how much I was just kind of like in tunnel vision of I'm just pissed off. I just want to drive as fast as I can, and no one is going to stop me from overtaking them. I go no nonsense down the inside. We do a little fake to the left, then to the right to get Perez. Then he locks up, even hits the wall a tad, and we're up into P5 then, and we're closing up even more so on Verstappen and Bottas. They come into the pit lane now, and so this is the kicker. We're in P3 now. If we did not have a drive-through penalty, we would be getting a podium, and we would be doing the best job we could to damage limit, to limit the damage, I should say, wrong way of saying that, limit the damage we are going to be taking for Vettel winning this race, because he's in first, Raikkonen in second, and you can see on the minimap that's the gap that Vettel's already got to Raikkonen. We're actually catching Kimi. We can see Kimi just up the road as we come towards the pit lane now, which is even more frustrating because that could have been then maybe second. You never know. If Kimi's going slow enough on worn softs, that could have been second. But no, here we are into the pit lane. And actually, the bigger thing and bigger issue for me here was, as I looked afterwards, after the race and the race director, you can see that a whole load of people got drive-through penalties, and probably for the same issue of falling back, quotation marks, falling far too back. So a major issue with the game here at the moment. You know, a bug. Obviously, it was a bug in Season 1. But it's come back, and it seems to be an even worse one, because in Brazil, it was a case of the safety car didn't back us up enough, or wasn't backing the top guys up enough for us to actually catch up. This time, we had all caught up, but the game just decided we're still too far back, even though we were clearly close enough. So, this episode has pretty much just been a disaster for us in terms of how we're going, in terms of our fight for the championship, because we had that issue in quali. Hamilton then got dropped, so he couldn't even fight Vettel. He then had an engine failure. Now we come across the line. It's going to be P8, and the only good story for me from this race is Pascal Wehrlein actually ended up getting points in the Sauber. So good job on him. Good job, son. He's got Sauber ahead of McLaren, I think that will be, in the Constructors' Championship. So that's the only positive I can take away from this race. So a man like Pascal, but myself gutted, really. Sebastian Vettel, 25 points in the bag. And now I'm going to be somewhat, I don't know, 33, I think, if I'm correct, 33 points behind Vettel now in the championship. It's not looking good, guys. It's not looking good. With only 6 rounds left, I'm going to have to pray, and I'm maybe going to have to need you guys to pray along with me, that Vettel has at least one DNF, and in that same race, I win that race, because otherwise, this is a very big uphill battle. I think Vettel has pretty much sealed the championship, because Bottas, Hamilton and Raikkonen, they're nowhere near either. They're further back than me. But having said that, obviously they're in a Ferrari and a Mercedes car. Obviously the Mercedes car is not performing too well lately, but still, compared to us in a Renault in second place. So yeah, it's this really just has been a bit of a disaster episode for us. We're still third in constructors. I mean, this fight for the constructors, that's all safe. We are definitely going to be getting third place in the constructors, but I really do want to push and see if we can get the drivers this season. It'd be an absolutely amazing achievement, but this has been a huge blow to us. This has pretty much been what Vettel's experienced in real life, like just a huge unlucky blow one race that's really just knocked the momentum, the confidence I have in maybe this challenge now coming to fruition. And obviously we've seen the Ferrari cars being the best car by some way, actually, bar, you know, minusing bad luck. It's been the better car pretty much all this season in Season 3, so it's tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But guys, nonetheless, if you have enjoyed another installment of the F1 2017 career mode, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Let me know, with 6 rounds to go, do you reckon I can actually still do this? And do you feel like Vettel's luck is going to continue like this for the rest of this season? 6 rounds left. I want to know your thoughts. But if you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.